but they wouldn't touch me because of the broken neck. Nobody would give me a chance, which kind of turned out well because then I ended up doing what I'm doing now. I went into pro wrestling. I went into fighting. I became my own person. But without that moment of saying, not me. No way are you telling me what I can or cannot do. This is my life. I'm going to get where I want to go. Hey, this is Ken Shamrock, the world's most dangerous man. Well, former world's most dangerous man. We're chatting with Staxx.
Welcome to this episode of Chatting with Staxx. I'm your host, Bill Staxx, and today I got Ken Shamrock.
And so it's not like, we're accepted, but we are who we are, and we need to always guard from that.
Did you have plans, like once you're in this home, do you have plans for the future on what you wanted to do with your life?
I was always, even at the young age, I always felt I wanted to play football. I saw a football game one time, and it was just so unbelievable. The way they were hitting and the viciousness, and I was like, I want to do that. And I never really got the opportunity because I was always locked up. And my first opportunity to really go to school any length of time was, in Lassie County in high school. And that's where I really got a few years of education. Obviously, I went to schools other places, but I was always bouncing, either another group home or, I just didn't stay long enough. So I never really got a solid ground to belong to any school. And Lassen Susanville was the only school that I went 4 years and actually graduated. Shasta College was another one, but I didn't graduate from there. But I did get, I believe it was a BA. And so I never really belonged in a school, right? Other than that high school. I didn't have, when I went in as a freshman, I was in special ed. I had a first grade reading level, which was shocking. I was surprised I could do that. I couldn't add, I couldn't subtract, didn't know how to. I guess my biggest problem was being able to carry the numbers. I didn't know that. So it was a struggle. And by the time I was a junior, I was in mainstream courses, but it was a struggle. And then I broke my neck, my senior year wrestling. I had the world, right? Remember all the things I just told you, what I went through. I did everything right. I changed my life. I have a dad now. I have security. My senior year, I'm getting ready to have a big year. I have scholarships, and we had already gone through our regular season in wrestling. Preseason in wrestling, and then we were starting to go into our league. And up to that point, I just won actually 4 tournaments. 2 of those tournaments one of them was in Susanville, where we had a rotatory, which was one of the biggest tournaments in Northern California that we would hold there. I won that one. And then there was one in Nevada, which was just over the border. And then the one that we did in Susanville, I beat the 190, I don't know what weight class Nevada had, but it's 190 something pound, 2-time state champion. I beat him in the finals.
How much did you weigh at that point?
I was 167 pounds, and I wrestled up weight. And I was just that good and that strong. And then the other guy that I wrestled in Yerington, Yerington, and Lomry was the one I beat in the Susanville tournament. He was the heavyweight. I beat him. He was a 2-time state champion, a 3-time state champion. I beat him. He was a 3-time state champion because this was my senior year, and he was a senior, and he had won it the last 3 years, and I beat him. I gave him his only loss in the finals. Then I went back to Douglas in Nevada. Where there was this guy named McCann. I believe it was John McCann. I'm not certain, but his last name was McCann. And he was a stud. And he had won state 2 years in the last 3. He won 2. And he was one weight down. I believe it was a 180 pounder or 175 pounder, whatever the Nevada class was.
Yeah.
And I wrestled him in our tournament. And right, because I wrestled in the Nevada tournament where I won. And then they come back to our tournament in the Rotary, and I beat him. And I was losing 6-0. I ended up beating him. So I beat 2 Nevada state champions in two different weight classes. One at, I believe, 170, the other one at 190, I believe it was. And I beat both of them. So I was going through my season undefeated. I was, beating everybody, I was beating state champions. And then I went into practice and getting prepared for sections in state. And I remember going in, and usually, you get the mats taped together, the mats get clean, but this was after the thing was over, and we were actually going into the what do you call it, the after season, where you're going into sections in state. And so I go in there and I go to playing around, right? And they always brought heavier guys in for me because I was always wrestling a couple weight classes up, 1 or 2 weight classes up all the time. Yeah. And my regular weight was 165 or 167. They give you 2 pounds, but I wrestled up 185s and then heavyweight in California, the California weights. So I go into practice, and they got these bigger guys in there, and I'm horsing around. I'm just playing around, and I'm the only one that had qualified. So there wasn't a whole lot of people that showed up. The coach was there, and I'm playing around. And the coach says, "You better start working, or you're going to be running walls with the conditioning drill." And I was always in great shape, and I hated conditioning. So I go shoot him in and take him down, and the mat slips. And literally, because it was air, they say it was air. It could have been dust too on the top of the mat. It could have been a lot of things. But I ended up falling into almost like an Indian split position. And he falls right on top of me, and he shoves my chin down to my sternum, which stretches my neck out and then comes down and smashes the cartilage and breaks the bone. And I don't know it at this time. I just know it. It just, all of a sudden, this excruciating pain was just going down my arms, and I can't move. I mean, literally laying on my face, and the coach is saying, "Get up." And I'm like, I'm getting up in my head. I'm saying, I'm getting up, and I'm not moving. And I'm like, what's like, and this is all within like 10 seconds, right? It's not like it's stretched on, but this is how it felt like forever, because I'm trying to get up and I ain't moving. And after, 10 seconds, 15 seconds, I realized something's wrong. And I got excruciating pain shooting down my arms. And so they send an ambulance. I think it was probably 45 minutes later. The ambulance comes in. They put me in the Star Wars board. They clamp together. They put it on top of me, pick me up, stick me in the ambulance. And from Lansing County, they drove me all the way to Redding, California, which is where the specialist was. And it was probably a few hours into it. They've got me in this bed. I'm strapped to the bed.
Your face
I
down,
can't move.
Right?
I'm flat on my back, right? They got me strapped down. It's flat, right? When I have to go take a pee, they flip me over and I pee through a hole. When I got to go the other way, they flip me to the back and I go through a hole. And I was not moving. And in order for me to watch TV, they had a mirror that would come down and I would watch the reflection. I couldn't move. They had me strapped down. And I remember when they came in with the x-rays, and I remember them telling my dad, he adopted me, said that, he's got some serious damage. And I don't remember the exact words, broken neck, of cartilage. You know how they use those medical terms, so it's hard to follow. But basically broke down to is that I smashed my cartilage and I have broken bones, and they've got to replace them. They got to fuse them, what they call fusing. And I don't know any of this, so I'm not really taking any of this in. I don't understand it. And I remember thinking to myself after it was over, and the doc basically gave a synopsis. And I remember asking my dad, "So how long? How long before I can get back out, man? Because I got a big schedule coming up." And I remember him telling me, he goes, "Yeah, you're not going to be you're not going to be getting on the mat for a whole while." And I was like, "What are you talking about?" He goes, "Well, what it comes down to is that I don't believe you're going to be doing contact sports again. We're going to have to figure something else out for you to be doing because you have a severe neck injury." And I was like, "How? Wait a minute. The only reason why that I am in the place I am in my life right now is because I can do sports. You're telling me in my head that I can't do that anymore?" It's like, and I'm in my head, I'm like, that, then what does that make me? Who am I? I mean, I was lost. Because I'm thinking to myself, I'm a bum. Like, I don't know anything else. These are the things I have. Like, this is what makes me live. You're telling me I can't use them? And I got depressed. And it took a little bit, but I remember the one thing that kept me from really kind of hitting rock bottom was that he gave me hope because he said, "Do you realize that you are the only one that can change what's happening to you right now? Nobody else can do it for you. Where your life goes from here is up to you." I mean, literally a straight, blunt, in my face, this is you. Like, where are you going to go from here? You're going to lay down and die, or you're going to get up and do something about it. And I remember thinking to myself, man, he is right. This doctor does not know me. He doesn't know what I am willing to do to get to where it is I want to go. He doesn't know me. How can he tell me something like that? Now, obviously, my dad in his head isn't thinking like I'm thinking like, well, screw him, I'm going to go play again. Well, that's exactly what I did. I mean, I remember got out, I started working out. I mean, I tore the bolts out of my head because I got a fight. I had a halo on.
Oh, you had to wear that all the way down?
Yeah. Bolts, head, chest plate, and I got into a fight with the guy that weighed 260 pounds in the group home. And I remember picking him up and slamming him, and I ripped the bolts out of my head. Literally tore it out. This was, 4 weeks, 5 weeks after I had, things started settling in. And I was training even with the chest plate on. I couldn't really go heavy, but I was hitting. I was like, I'm not stopping. And I even got into a fight because they laughed at me because the storm came in and there was clouds and lightning. And this dude turned around and looked at me and said, boy, it'd be funny if you went out in the lightning, man. You'd be a lightning rod. I mean, it's funny, right? Everybody started laughing, but you're talking to me. Like, wait a minute, you're making fun of me? You don't make fun of me. And I got up, I started firing on him. I picked him up, slammed him, and ripped the bolts right out of my head. And I had to take me and rush me into the hospital, get it all put back in. But the thing that I took from that whole thing was that those things that sometimes don't ever sink in, like for instance what my dad said, listen, man, you're the only one that can change this. You could say that to me 100 times, but this one moment where he said it to me in this instance made all the sense in the world to me. It was like, how else can it be? Like, this is happening to me. Nobody's going to be able to get up and do this for me. My dad is not going to be able to go up and talk to people and make things okay and put me in a better position. I have to do it. I got to put the work in because it's my body, it's my mind, it's my heart, it's my life. And so I had to be the one to go out there, put myself in position to be able to find out whether or not this was going to be it. Now, my dad wasn't thinking that, but I did. I went, I played ball. I remember even when I went and played ball, it's a year and a half later. Most people are like, dude, how do you not? I never thought about it. Now, and I know people are going to go, I didn't. I had no fear because I went from 175, 180 pounds down to 145 after I broke my neck, and then all the way back up to 220. 220 pounds a year and a half later on the football field, led the team in tackles, become a junior college All-American, and obviously trying to go in because I played well enough to go play, and I almost at Riverside City College almost got a scholarship there, but they wouldn't touch me because of the broken neck. Nobody would give me a chance, which kind of turned out well because then I ended up doing what I'm doing now. I went into pro wrestling, I went into fighting, I became my own person. But without that moment of saying, not me. No way are you telling me what I can or cannot do. This is my life. I'm going to get where I want to go. Without that moment, man, I don't get where I'm at.
Yeah. It like shaped your whole future.
Yeah.
So
yeah. And just a moment. It was just a moment in time that I embraced.
Do you remember when you were able to get adopted by this family, and what was that like?
Yeah, that was chaotic because I didn't get it till I was 18. And the reason why I didn't get it till I was 18 is because my biological mother wouldn't sign the papers. And I didn't understand why, because he was raising me and had been for a while. And I just felt she felt guilty about, I don't know, kind of giving me up. And I kept telling her, "You're not giving me up. I'm giving the father. You're my mom." And even though she wasn't there. She was there, but she wasn't there. And she wasn't a bad person. Yeah.
Sporadically, she was.
Yeah, because I'd go home for home visits, Christmas things of that nature, and then I'd go back, and I lived there. I was there for 5 years, living in that home, and then, I got adopted. And when I was 18, and she wouldn't sign it, but so when I turned 18 years old, I signed it and ended up making it official. But it wasn't like a parade, or I was already his kid. I was already there. All it was just signing a paper, but I was already his. I was already grown up. I was already buying into him as my father. Never, even though Dee Dee was there, and I always looked at her as a role model, as a mother, because I never knew what a mother looked like and how a mother was supposed to look and how a mother's supposed to walk and act. I saw my biological one, and I know she was what she could be, but it just didn't. It just didn't jive with the world, like where I wanted to go, and we were giving up. It wasn't like the juvenile hall. They ended up taking us, and then she fought for us. It wasn't like that. It was like she needed the break because she had 3 kids when she was 19 years old. And she couldn't raise us. We got in trouble because she couldn't raise us and just leaving us alone all the time. And it's just like she didn't have the ability to raise children, or at least at that age. And so we were all gone. My 2 older brothers, one went to prison, almost did life if they had to change the law in California, where you can't be tried for something that you've not even tried for, because he was a 3-strike or a 4-strike guy, and he was doing life. And then they changed it, and he got out. My brother Richie, same way, man. Bad. He's an enforcer. He was a collector. He would break people's legs. I mean, he was just bad. And this is all have a role model. It was hard to. It was hard for her, no question, because I think she wasn't ready for it. But I had to make a decision, or I wouldn't have ended up where I'm at now. I would have ended up where my brothers were. And, obviously I love them and they're doing okay now. I never grew up with them. I know where they're at. But, they struggled in life. And I chose not to. I chose to pick a path that I knew that was going to get me where, whatever I didn't know, but I knew it was better.
Was there a moment when this family came to you and said, "We want to bring you into our family"?
No, I think it was kind of this gradual thing that happened over the period of time. I started there when I was 13. And it was probably around, I would say, 15 years old, where it started to embrace me as their kid. I started using the name at 17 years old. I started using their name my senior year. I put it on my jersey. So it was always kind of this gradual thing where, especially after my dad had gotten a divorce from Dee Dee, who was my mom. She's in Modesto now. I see her all the time. I love her. She's my mom. But they got separated, and I had a struggle. I had a real bad struggle with that, because everything besides breaking my neck, after that, prior to that, when that happened, I thought everything was coming down because we were going to get sent back, because they weren't going to keep the group home open if people were going through that kind of drama. But they did keep it open, and they didn't take us out. We got to stay, and thank God, because this was I believe my path to being who I am today. And so they went that separation. That was hard, man. I had a hard time with that because I thought it was perfect, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, like nobody even saw it coming. And then my dad had passed away shortly after that, and me and my mom became a lot closer, understanding the things that she went through behind closed doors. And obviously, we all know marriages are tough, but there are sometimes where things just happen to couples that you're not going to change. And It's not like any one person had done anything on purpose to hurt the other person, but they change. People change, and their likes and their comfort and their different types of love change, and that's what happened. It just changed, and it was the best thing to do for that not to go into a bad situation, which was true because we never saw him fight. We never saw him like argue. We never saw any. It was all polite and respectful, and so it was just weird, right? It was just gone. But, I have a great relationship with her now, understanding everything. And, sad for my dad because he went through a hard time in the end, obviously, because of his cancer, not cancer, but, well, maybe it was in his leg where they had to cut it off, and he had a quadruple heart pass. So it was hard for him, uh, big time. So that was a struggle. But I knew that, like I said, with probably my sophomore year, that's where that was my family, and that's where I was staying.